Hello there, pre-matriculants. Welcome to Educate. In this video, we'll be doing some practice problems based on the biodiversity of microorganisms. The diagram below shows or represents different viruses. So this is all about viruses. We have got virus number 1, and then we have got virus number 2 provided in the diagrams. Please make sure that you've watched my previous videos that have talked about viruses and how they differ and all of those, so that you can easily understand this one. So now when you look at virus number 1, according to what's provided in the information, they say this is 100 nanometers. So this means that the size of this virus is 100 nanometers. And then here right down is written a virus that infects bacteria. Okay, it's written a virus that does what? That infects bacteria. What is the name, the proper name given to a virus that is able to infect some bacteria? We say it is known as a bacteriophage. So the virus that is able to kill or that is able to attack bacteria, we say it is known as the bacteriophage. So whenever you hear or whenever they give you a biological term, they now say a virus that infects bacteria, you know that the name of that virus is known as a bacteriophage. It is able to kill bacteria. And then we've got virus number 2, and then they now say this is an influenza virus. Remember that the influenza virus is the one that causes flu, right? And then now let's go to 2.1.1 and try to answer the questions. So when you start with 2.1.1 here, it says identify the parts A and parts B. So when you look at part A and part B here, we are looking at the following. So part A here, in this case, it is pointing to the bacteriophage. So this head of a bacteriophage, or this structure of a bacteriophage, remember that it is known as the protein shield. So a bacteriophage, it is a virus that has got some DNA inside it, right? So surrounding this DNA, it is this structure, which is structure number A. So this structure A, it is known as a what? A protein shield. This is similar to just a protein coat from a normal virus, basically, but it is used to do what? It is used to cover the genetic material of a bacteriophage. So it is covering the DNA and the RNA. Okay, so now we're gonna say that part A is known as a protein shield. So this is a protein shield, right? Then now when we look at part B in the influenza virus, we've got the influenza virus. Remember that this is just a typical virus that you know. It has got an envelope surrounding it. This is the envelope, and then it has got this structure here. This coat, and inside the coat there is some DNA and RNA. So structure B here, you can see that it is showing us this coat here. You can see if we just zoom in a bit there so that you can see better. So you can see that here, this structure B, it is showing us this coat here that is enclosing the DNA, or that is enclosing the genetic material of the virus. So in a typical virus, we say that the protein coat there, it is known as the capsid. So we don't use the word protein coat, we use the word capsid. But in a bacteriophage, we use the term protein shield. But when you're just looking at any other normal virus, such as this influenza virus, we use the term capsid to refer to the what? To refer to the protein coat that is surrounding the DNA or the RNA, or you can just say the genetic material of that virus. So now let's look at 2.1.2. 2.1.2 now says state why viruses are acellular. So viruses are examples of microorganisms that are acellular. In fact, these just rare types of organisms. We actually say that viruses, they are non-living. At the same time, basically viruses, they are not living organisms. Okay, they're not living organisms because basically viruses cannot excrete waste, viruses cannot respirate. Okay, so viruses cannot do normal things that living organisms or living cells do. Okay, so why are viruses acellular? When you say that an organism is acellular, it simply means that the organism does not have a cell in it. Okay, so this virus, this structure of a virus is not really a cell per se, because it does not excrete any waste, it does not respirate. Okay, it does not do any metabolic reaction that is done by a normal cell. All right, so we say that viruses are acellular because they do not have a cell. Basically, acellular simply means that they do not have a cell. So viruses do not have a cell. You're gonna write in full. We say that viruses are acellular because they do not have a cell, or you can say that they do not have cellular structures. They do not have cellular organelles or anything like that. But we say that they do not have a cell. That's why we refer to them as acellular. Then now they say briefly explain briefly, and you are given 3 marks here, how virus 1 may be used as a biological control agent. So this is virus 1. So virus 1 is used as a biological control agent. When you say biological control agent, it simply means that it is controlling something, okay? Controlling something, so in simple terms. So what can a bacteriophage be used to control? Remember that the main thing or the main characteristic of a bacteriophage is that it is able to kill bacteria. Bacteriophage is a virus that infects bacteria, that is able to do what? To kill bacteria. So here when they say briefly explain how this virus or this bacteriophage may be used as a biological control agent, yes, we can use it to control the spread of bacteria. Because basically remember that this is able to kill bacteria. Let's just say, for example, right now you are infected with cholera. Cholera is caused by Vibrio, is caused by a bacterium, okay? Cholera is caused by a bacterium. So when we use a bacteriophage, this virus that is known as a bacteriophage, it will be able to kill the bacteria causing cholera. So it can be used as a biological control agent. What is the first thing that you can mention there? The bacteriophage, or you can say virus number 1. So you say first the bacteriophages. The bacteriophage can be used to kill, because it's a virus that infects bacteria. It can be used to kill what? It can be used to kill bacteria. So bacteriophages can be used to kill bacteria, and this will definitely help, of course. So it will actually make it easier for us to treat diseases that are caused by bacteria if we use a bacteriophage. So you can add other points just to solidify your statement. But the whole idea here is that we can use a bacteriophage as a biological control agent. We can control the spread of bacteria, so it can be used to kill bacteria. Then maybe for the remaining 2 marks, you can try and elaborate by giving an example. For example, I gave you an example that, for example, if we have got the bacterium that causes cholera, okay, the bacterium that causes cholera, it can be done what? It can be killed by this bacteriophage, and this will actually minimize the spread of cholera. Okay, so you can just give your own elaboration there. I'm just giving you this as a duty and as a task to complete this question by answering the remaining part. But basically the idea is here, the bacteriophage can be used to do what? To kill or infect bacteria. So if someone is infected with a disease caused by bacteria, we can use the bacteriophage to kill that disease, to kill that bacteria. Okay, so it can be used as a biological control agent. So now let's go to 2.2 that talks about coronavirus.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video, and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you. But sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
Now they say coronavirus. You already know coronavirus, most of you guys. So coronavirus, the world's greatest enemy. Coronavirus is also known to suppress the human immune system. So you know of the period of 2020 when the spread of COVID-19 was so wide in South Africa. So now here you just have to answer at your best knowledge. You don't really need too much theory here. because you know what you were doing during COVID-19 times. So now there's a state 2 recommendations to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. That's a 2.2.1. So for you to be able to prevent the spread of coronavirus, remember that you just need the virus to not come out of you and get to the other person. So you kind of don't need to cough in the public and transmit the virus to the other people. So the first thing you can do is to wear face masks. This is just too obvious because you guys live this period whereby you wore some face masks. So you can wear a face mask. And also, for you to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus, you can also maintain social distance as well. So you can maintain social distance. Remember that when we used to go to the stores during the COVID-19 period, we actually would stand 1 meter apart in the queues. You wouldn't stand like closer to each other because there's a chance that the virus might be spread from one person to another. So you can maintain some social distance. There are many other measures that you can do or that you can implement to be able to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Then now they say give one reason why it is difficult to develop a cure for coronavirus. So coronavirus, there is a COVID-19 vaccine indeed, but it's not really an effective cure because basically a virus, remember that it can actually develop some resistance, just like bacteria. Bacteria can develop resistance as well as viruses. Viruses can develop a resistance. Basically, the viruses, they're able to change their structure. You know that viruses, they mutate quickly, right? Viruses are able to change their structures. So if they change their structure, the moment you design a vaccine for the old structure, it won't be able to kill the present virus. Let's just say, for example, first the coronavirus, it was like this. Let's just say this was its structure. Then a mutation happens. Remember, a mutation simply means that there is a change in the structure of the genes. For now, you are in grade 11. You are not doing details on what are genes and how the genetic material it works and whatnot. But just know that a virus can undergo a mutation. A mutation simply means that the virus is changing its genetic structure. So the moment when you go and design a vaccine to attack this virus, then it changes to something like this. That vaccine will not be effective. That is why it is very difficult to develop a cure for coronavirus. It's because viruses, they do what? They mutate quickly. So when you answer this question, you say viruses mutate or they change. If you won't remember this word mutate, you say that their gene structure changes, or you can say that their structure changes. So viruses, they mutate frequently, or they mutate quickly, or they mutate rapidly, something in that towards that direction. So viruses, they mutate rapidly, making it difficult to develop what? To develop one solution or to develop one cure for all the variations that this virus will become. Because as you can see, the virus is like this. It mutates quickly or easily or frequently. So it kind of changes quickly its structure. Okay, you are going to do the details when you go to grade 12, where you learn of DNA and RNA, where you learn of the genes and whatnot. But basically, in simple terms, I'm telling you that the viruses, they do what? Their structure changes quickly. So when you design a vaccine to treat a virus, then the virus changes to something else. Then the moment you administer that vaccine into the body of an infected person, the vaccine will not be effective. The vaccine will not be able to cure or heal the person. So the viruses, they mutate rapidly, making it difficult to develop a proper vaccine, all right, or a proper cure. Then now 2.2.3 now says coronavirus is known to suppress the human immune system. So the coronavirus suppresses the human immune system. Remember that the immune system is the one that is responsible for making your body to be able to fight infection. For example, right now, if you have got some flu, and then after Okay, let's just say you've got flu today and you are not a pills person. You don't buy any pills. You don't even drink any medication. That flu will be gone in about 5 days or a week. Simply means that your body can be able to heal itself because it can be able to fight infection. That is known as the human immune system. Now, 2.2.3 now says explain why this has more effect. Why does this have more effect? Since the coronavirus is destroying the ability of a body to fight infection. Because remember that immune system simply means that it is the ability of a body to fight some infection. So here, since the coronavirus it is suppressing the human immune system, it means that the coronavirus it is making the body to not be able to fight for itself. Okay, it is making the body to not be able to fight infection. So why does this have more effect on people with underlying conditions? When you say that people have got underlying conditions, simply means that the people have got other conditions before the coronavirus gets into them. So now this is going to have more effect because basically when you have got underlying conditions, let's just say maybe you've got a terminal illness, maybe you are ill of a certain disease currently. When you are ill or when there is a illness in your body, it simply means that your immune system is not it is not strong. Okay, your immune system is weak. When you say that the immune system is weak, it means that someone that is ill is not able to fight infection easily. So let's just say maybe you've got a terminal illness right now, and then now you kind of get this coronavirus. Now, what will happen? This will definitely affect you quite a lot. Why is this? It is because you've got a weak immune system. Your body is not able to fight the virus because it's already having other conditions within the body that are weakening its ability to fight. Okay, so now the people that have got underlying conditions, now when you explain it, I'm sure you're going to say that people with underlying conditions have a weak system, a weak immune system. So you're going to write that in a sentence. I mean, I'm just giving you the idea here. So you're going to write people with underlying conditions have got a weak immune system. So people with underlying conditions, they've got a weak immune system. And when they've got a weak immune system, it means that this will actually, remember that the coronavirus is also suppressing the human immune system as well. So it means that the moment the coronavirus is coming to their body already, it will further weaken the immune system. Okay, it will further weaken it. That's why this affects those people more than a random person. For example, if we take a person that is perfectly healthy, that does not have any illness with them, they've got a strong immune system. Then we take someone that has got an underlying condition, someone that has got an illness already, they have a weak immune system. And remember that the coronavirus that is being introduced to both of them, it suppresses the immune system. So basically, when the coronavirus is introduced to the healthy person, the immune system of the healthy person will not be that weak. Okay, it will try to fight the virus. But the person with already underlying conditions has already a weak immune system. So the moment the coronavirus comes and suppresses their immune system, that person will have the weakest. They have a risk even of a fatality as well. That's why the COVID-19 was also a fatal virus for that reason. Said so they've got a weak immune system which is further weakened. So you can now say which is further weakened by okay, when the virus gets into them, you're gonna use the proper English. But basically, the people with underlying conditions, they've got a weak immune system already, and then the moment you introduce the coronavirus into them, their weak immune system will be further weakened, and it will be even worse. Then 2.2.4 now says state one significance of vaccines in the human body. What is the importance of vaccines? The significance simply means the importance in this context. So basically, vaccines, remember that they are used to make your body to be able to fight for itself. Remember, vaccines are a form of active immunity whereby when you administer a vaccine into the human body, the body is able to fight for itself. How does the body fight for itself? Remember that it uses the bodies. Okay, it has got antibodies. It produces antibodies that fight infection. So the moment you administer a vaccine in the human body, you are stimulating it, or you are causing it to be able to produce more antibodies. And the more it produces more antibodies, it simply means that it will be able to fight infection easily or effectively. So in this case, the most significance of vaccines in the human body is that they stimulate the body to be able to, so they do what? They stimulate. We use the word stimulate. They stimulate the body to produce antibodies. So they stimulate the body to produce antibodies. So it is it's a great importance having a vaccine. So when you go and you get vaccinated there, the vaccine will actually activate your immune system. The vaccine will actually cause your immune system to be more active and be able to fight infection effectively. So thank you so much for watching this wonderful video, a wonderful pre-matriculants. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends also. Stay tuned.